Hewitt, inside the Beltway, 33 minutes after the hour, joined now by Assistant to the President, Larry Kudlow. For those of you who've been listening to the show for 20 years, for many years, Larry would do a segment a week with me. Then he started his own radio show. Then he started his own TV show. Hardest working man in broadcast. And then he goes to work in the White House. You've always been a grinder, Larry Kudlow. Thank you for joining us. How's your health? How's the Kudlow clan health?
Judy and I are fine. Thank you. God bless so far. Testing negative every day and praying that it will remain so. I go to work in the morning and come home at night. It's a very exciting life.
Larry, for the benefit of our audience, you are a grinder. How hard comparatively are you working now compared to how you've always worked? I mean, what's the atmosphere in terms of just sheer effort at the White House?
Well, everybody's working very hard. It's probably the toughest assignment I've ever had. I down through the years, Hugh. I mean, I'm almost as old as you are. I think if that's possible. I have to get a tally on that. But I've worked at the Federal Reserve. I've worked on Wall Street. I worked for Ronald Reagan and OMB. I worked as a broadcaster for about 20 years, as you noted. Now I'm back in the White House 40 years later. It's a tough assignment, very tough. But, I must say, first of all, it's an honor to give service, and it's an honor to work for President Trump. It's been a tremendous experience. Of course, the pandemic, the virus, makes everything much harder. But I don't want to single out because I think throughout America, there's tremendous hardship and some heartbreak and a lot of anxiety. And I think this is just a hard period for all Americans. And I think I'm the eternal optimist. It's a great country. We have a way of rising up. Folks in America have a way of rising up and conquering problems seemingly insurmountable. I think the same is going to happen with this. That's my take.
Larry Kudlow, a few lifetimes ago, you and Arthur Brooks sat down at a National Review Summit, and it was one of the more inspiring conversations I've ever heard. And you both are men of deep faith. There is so much suffering in the world right now, and in the United States. You just referenced it. Is it testing your faith in any way?
No. In fact, I'm not sure I could do all this without faith. So I'm as committed to faith as possible. I'm a Catholic convert over 25 years ago. It sustains me. And actually, in my little church in Connecticut, a couple of guys have put the Sunday Mass, including the Easter Mass, online and YouTube. And so I watch that every Sunday, and that helps. And there's some wonderful people in the White House, in the West Wing, who are dear friends of mine, who are people of strong faith, and we talk about that a lot. So, no, it's, look, the Lord acts in strange ways, but I think he also gives us great strength. I think Jesus gives us great strength, and I partake of that strength really on a daily basis, So this has been something.
Larry,
you raised
in my mind an interesting question. The fetching Mrs. Hewitt and I are evangelical Roman Catholic Presbyterians, meaning we support churches on both sides. There's one river, there are two banks. But a lot of churches are just crushed. You know this. Yeah. They're just crushed. What can the president's team do for the not-for-profit sector and the religious sector? Because the money's gone.
Well, it's a great point. And the administration in its policies have made allowances for assistance programs, and actually we're still looking for more. But I know that the payroll purchasing protection program was amended to permit dioceses and archdioceses where a lot of the schools have been closing because the daily offerings and the Sunday offerings, shut down because the church shut down. But we've made a lot of allowances so they can get some money, and we're looking for even more. I've worked with my longtime friend, dear heart, Kellyanne Conway on this. Steve Mnuchin's been very helpful. So has our new chief, Mark Meadows.
That is terrific news. I also have talked to 3 college presidents, former or present, And American higher education is on a cliff, Larry Kudlow. I'm sure
Mm.
you folks know about that. It operates on tuition, and they always are forward-looking. What do you think it's going to look like in American higher education in 2 months?
Well, gosh, I don't know. I mean, I think the key point here, as in so many other cases, Hugh, is to reopen the economy. We've got to do it safely. We've got to abide by the data and the testing results and so forth. But I just hope, really, and pray that, like everything else, businesses across America, you can't have a good job without a good business. And with respect to churches and any religious forums, let's get this thing reopened. Again, it must be done safely. No question about that. But let's not stall it. Let's get it done as soon as we possibly can. So, in the case of schooling, certainly the fall semester, I have very high hopes. Our national numbers are seeing a flattening in the infection rates and the mortality rates, and we're getting the job done on testing and PPE and other key areas, contact tracing. So I just am optimistic that the economy transitions to an opening in May and June, and that will leave everybody in much better shape for a better economy this summer, and also to spill over into church openings and religious openings everywhere.
Now, Larry Kudlow, one of the things that's obvious to me, and I drive the data every day. I'm deep into it. What else am I going to do? I'm in my studio and I'm working, and I'm looking at the fact that clearly people under 45, with a few exceptions. One came up yesterday when John Roberts brought up the 85 cases, only 85, but it's still troubling, of children who've got the Kawasaki-like syndrome. But mostly it's a above 50, really above 65 problem, really above 70 problem. It is not unconstitutional to have age discrimination. It is illegal under the Age Discrimination Employment Act to discriminate against seniors. But what about running airplane flights for just people under 45? What about opening restaurants for just people under 30 as a phase sort of thing? Is that kicking around the White House to take advantage of the fact that this virus does not hit younger people the same way it hits people like you and me who've got 6 decades or more?
Well, I haven't heard anything quite so specific delineating the age groups. It is one of the reasons I worry about you. Here you are working every day, my God. Um, but that's a wonderful thing. I, I think we've issued guidelines on this that seniors should be very careful, and perhaps I say perhaps stay in more than might normally be the case until we have greater confidence in the whole story. But again, I don't want to go too far on that because there are a lot of seniors that are working and that are actually looking for work. There was an article recently about that. I don't want to prejudice against them. If you don't feel good or you have some chronic pre-existing condition, that's different. Stay in, and maybe until the bitter end. But otherwise, I mean, look, I'm still standing. I'm blessed. I'm working. If I didn't feel well, I wouldn't go in naturally. I'd self-quarantine, but I feel fine, so I'm working. And
You
I
and me
think that's
both.
the general rule. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm out
no, I
doing
know.
50 miles a week in walking and running, and I think it really depends. But I would love to see if we would open up airplanes and just say it's limited to 50 and under or 40 and under, they'd fill up because people would fly if they weren't afraid of the virus. Let me talk to you a little bit about the infrastructure plan, Larry Kudlow. I love infrastructure. I hate when it's done by the states or the federal government. I love giving money to counties because counties
Mhm.
know what they need. As you talk about infrastructure funding, are you talking about making sure it gets down to the level where they actually know which bridge needs to be fixed and not giving it to the state governments to blow on pension plans, et cetera?
Well, we've looked at this. President also likes infrastructure. He said many, many times, and we want to have smart infrastructure, which probably does mean getting it down as far as we can into the local level. But we'd like smart infrastructure. We'd like more rapid infrastructure, and we passed several executive orders. We've penned several executive orders for much faster permitting, particularly with respect to environmental regulations, where a lot of the locals stopped infrastructure because of ideological problems, all the green stuff. But we will try to be as smart as we can if we go forward with an infrastructure bill. There's a good bill from Senator Barrasso, Lane Chow at Transportation, my own team at NEC, and others have been working on making that bill better. There's some pretty reasonable Democrats, in my view, on the House side who we think we could work with on an infrastructure package. So we'll see how that works out in the next round of discussion.
All right, two more questions, Larry Kudlow. Liability protection. I am a lawyer. I admit to it. If we allow the plaintiff's bar to pick over the bones of business, we will never reopen this country. In my view, we have to either bar it, any COVID-related claim, or at a minimum preempt it by a federal standard that is reckless disregard for public health standards, and remove it to a single federal district like copyright, like royalties for the radio business. There's only one court you can go to. Is the Economic Council focused, like Mitch McConnell, on limiting liability for businesses?
Yes, absolutely. And you can hear the presidents talk about it almost daily on restrictions, on liability restrictions or shields or safeguards. This has got to be an integral part of any new package that may emerge in the next month or two. Got to be, for all these reasons. I mean, look, you restaurants being the obvious one, but it's not only restaurants. It's could be hair cutters or small stores, things of that sort. If they know they're going to be sued and hauled off to court, and they're not going to open. They don't, and if they do open and get sued, they don't have the money to go to court and so forth. So this is something we have got to pay enormous attention to. This has to be part of any new package. The president said that many times. You're right. Mitch McConnell has been a great leader. Going back many weeks, I started talking about it publicly too. So this is very, very high on our list.
Would you say it's non-negotiable?
I wouldn't want to say anything's non-negotiable, but I think this one's pretty close to non-negotiable and may well be non-negotiable. It's just so important, particularly when you have rapid spreads. I mean, you don't know, these infections, you can get them any place. And perhaps that distinguishes COVID-19 from other virus problems. You don't know. Now, one key part here is obviously, and just for folks who are listening, gross negligence is punishable. Okay.
Yep.
You already have a lot of laws on the books with that. Okay, that's a separate matter. But if the restaurant or the bookstore or the hair cuttery is doing things right and following federal and local guidelines, then they should be safeguarded from any claims, because it's so hard to trace these things.
Yeah, foreseeability is. Yeah, the tort law is obvious here, and you're on to it. So, Larry, I don't want to abuse your time. Last question. The president often stressed that public health means economic health, that people cannot survive depression, addiction, idleness. Do you think the media is just not getting this, or are they purposely ignoring this messaging? Because I hear the same question every night in the briefing, and they do not seem to get that economic health is public health.
Yeah, well, of course, I agree with you. Some are, in the media, let's just say some are better than others. Others are worse than others. So I'll leave it at that. But, it can't be viewed, Hugh, as either or. I mean, public safety goes hand in hand with economic growth.
Yep.
So I believe we will do both. I think the president has been right to adopt the mitigation measures he had. I think the shutdowns did help bring the virus to heel. I think we're coming down the home stretch on this, and I think we're going to see big reopening. And frankly, Hugh, I think the second half of this year, you're going to see much stronger growth. I'm very much in the V-shaped recovery camp as businesses open. I think 2021 could be a very, very good year for the economy. And I think you'll see the president in any negotiations with Congress insist on measures that will spur growth incentives. We've gone through the rescue phase. We did what we had to do, and we put, with the Federal Reserve and the Congress and the White House, we probably put in over $9 trillion of assistance paid out to roughly 175 million people to try to keep the ship afloat. Now it's time to turn back to tax cuts and regulatory relief and things of that sort, which made this economy so strong in recent years, including the first couple of months of this year. If we go back to economic growth incentives, we can have a spectacular second half and next year, 2021.
Amen. If we roll back regulatory relief, we'll kill this economy, Larry Kudlow. You're an economic historian. You know what happened in the Great Depression. If we go the big government route, we'll kill the recovery.
Yes, well, that's quite right. Now, I don't want to adopt Depression policies, and this is not like the Depression because, this shutdown of the economy was not a function of bad policies. It was
Correct.
a function of this supernatural event. So it's different than that. But your point is still well taken. In order to get a booster rocket, the president has rebuilt this economy once with good free market, supply side, incentive oriented policies. And he aims to reopen it and rebuild it a second time. And I think you'll see those results within a few months.
Larry Kudlow, always great to talk to you. Stay healthy, my friend, and come back early and often. Always encouraging to talk to you.
Thanks, you. Appreciate it.